Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast, where you'll be not only allowed, but encouraged to dream big dreams and imagine the very best future for yourself and your family. Throw away expectations and perfection and embrace the messy beauty of what it means to be a marvelous mom. I'm your host, Kirsten Tyrell, and I can't wait to help you discover what makes you marvelous. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. This is going to be a special one. It's going to be a heartfelt, maybe a little bit of a tearjerker. I don't know. We're going to see where this goes. I have a kind of a repeat guest today, and I love these because you can go listen to her original episode to learn more about her and the phase of life she was in before. But right now, we're going to talk about where she's at today, and she's gone through some things, and I'm excited for her to share that with you. So please welcome my super good friend, Claire Aleman, to the podcast. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Hi, I'm so excited to talk to you.
I
Super
mean,
excited to be here.
it's a good excuse, right? Like we
I
text,
know.
we talk, but like we get to talk for real.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal for sure. What I realized
Yeah.
today is that what's kind of interesting about us talking again and the timing and when the last podcast came out was like literally a month before I found out Elijah had cancer. And I
Oh my
remember
gosh.
actually listening to it with him and all the kids in the car on the way to Colorado where he actually started feeling the pain in his shoulder on that trip, and then when we got back, everything kind of, happened. But I
Wow.
was like, wow, what weird timing. Like the timing was like literally right before my life changed the last time we did this.
Yeah. Well, and
So that's kind of
interestingly,
crazy.
the title of that episode was What Life Really Looks Like. And I'm like,
I
wow,
know.
life looks super different now than it did in November, or whenever that we recorded it, but it aired in November 2016. So that's crazy. And we're going to
Yeah.
talk, I guess, it's like picking up a little bit of what life really looks like now because you have 6 children, but you've lost one since we talked. And you kind
Hmm.
of just hinted at that and Elijah having cancer. So I told Claire she doesn't need to share the whole story with you guys, but I kind of had watched this as a friend, kind of at arm's length, seeing, well, I didn't want to be at arm's length. I unfortunately don't live in your neighborhood to come over all the
Yeah.
time, but I had to watch this through social media. And it's been such a huge loss, I think, for everybody who knows you. Everybody's heart kind of broke. So maybe just give people a little bit of a rundown of you just said it was about December-ish of 2018 or 2016 when you found out.
Yeah. So we came home from that trip and he had had some pain in his arm. And so we found out 2 days after Christmas that he had osteosarcoma of his upper right
Mm.
humerus, which is bone cancer. And
Ugh.
so we went through 2 years, almost 2 years of treatment, and he had his arm amputated after a year and a half to try and control the cancer. And I mean, we were hopeful the whole time. I think you saw that, and if you can go back
Mm-hmm.
through like my social media, you realize like I think there's just like a hedge of protection that's around you. Like I don't think I
Yeah.
realized till about 6 months before he passed how horrible it was. I think we were
Yeah.
being protected. I think that God is super gracious in that regard, where you're just kind of living moment to moment, and
Mm-hmm.
the hope is like that's it's amazing what that does. And we got that
Yeah.
from Elijah. He's just by nature a very hopeful, optimistic, um, just sweet guy, and we were just
Yeah.
following his lead and how he felt, and that every time something didn't work, um, even when they took his arm, that was the most amazing thing is that it did not phase him. His entire arm and shoulder were amputated, and he went on and went back to school and loved life. And I
Mm.
mean, that's really the lesson I think that
Yeah.
I take going forward in every day is that the days that I feel like I'm in this huge ocean of grief and it's vast and it's never ending. And there's some days that I'm kind of floating aimlessly. There's some days I'm
Yeah.
thinking, and
Right.
there's some days like I'm wildly, trying to tread water and like, and there's some days that
Yeah.
I'm okay, but
Mm-hmm.
I think what I learned the most from him is that this life is so beautiful and he wanted to be here. So he fought so hard. And
Yeah.
every time I think of that fight and I think of what he went through and the attitude he had through the entire experience, I think that's what keeps me going. And
Right.
it's about trying to remember not forget the hard moments because I think that's what pushes me forward too. I
Mm-hmm.
it's a weird balance, grief is, because
Yeah.
your mind wants you to dwell on the horrible images, like the really sad images, the last images, like the final breaths, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's okay to think of those. For a while I was trying to push those away, like, no, that's
Mm-hmm.
just going to make me sad. That's going to make me sad. But in all reality, and in the beauty of what I'm trying to embrace and trying to move through life with and hold on to about Elijah is those every moment is beautiful.
Yeah.
Every moment mattered, and even down to the very, very, very end, he it was a beautiful thing what he did and what he went through and how he did it and how he encouraged us and what he left us with. And
He left a
I think
legacy
that,
and like kind of
oh
just set a
man,
pattern for you guys of a pattern of behavior,
yeah.
it sounds like. So even though he's gone, he's not actually gone. I mean, for so many reasons, he's not really gone, but you guys are kind of left with that attitude and that inner compass of like how I know I see you post about this, like what would Elijah do? And this is what Elijah would be saying if he were in this situation, if he were with us. And I think it's cool that in his own suffering, he really set the tone for like, this is, you guys, this is how we're going to handle this. This is how the perspective that we're going to have. And it left you with such a positive mark rather than if he had chosen to kind of go into like a woe is me and life is hard and this isn't fair mentality. You guys would probably be left with that legacy. And that would be the suffering
Oh
that you would kind
yeah.
of to choose to emulate. So that's kind of beautiful that he really kind of led by example all the way out.
The
Yeah.
entire time, even to the point like where and yeah, I know that everyone probably knows this, but when a kid has cancer, you just get like there's so much attention. There's
Hmm.
so many charities. There's so many people that want to give to you and give to your kids, and it's really, really a beautiful community. And I had no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just Make a Wish. There's so many tiny organizations that reach out to you and they want to bless your child and they want to give him something. That I mean, after 3 months, Elijah ran out of things. Like he's like, I don't need anything. Like I don't
Wow.
want anything, and it just became this thing like, well, what can I get my brothers? Like if they're gonna give me
Oh.
something, I'm gonna get, well, what do they want? Like, and even when we would tell them, like we had so many beautiful experiences. So many people reached out to us from, I mean, from my high school that I hadn't talked to in years, people that had seen what we were going through and, set up things for Elijah to meet celebrities. And even when we told him like you're gonna meet this person, you're gonna meet Mark Hamill that you're gonna have lunch with Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, he was
Oh.
like, "Why?" He didn't get it, like, he just,
What's the
like,
big
didn't
deal?
understand, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, "But why does he wanna have lunch with me?" Like, he didn't, like, and obviously, I think in the previous episode, we talked about, like, I have 3 kids with special needs with autism, and Elijah was one of them. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting too to look at, like, how autism was almost like a blessing in this scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and it's so weird to even say that, like,
I think we
but Elijah
understand
was
that.
so, yeah, he just was like, why are these things happening? Like, I'm just me. I'm just living my life. I'm just doing my best.
Yeah.
I think it just really protected him, like the way his mind works and the way he's just very literal and very,
Mhm.
um, he just was able to handle it better. So it was a blessing
Yeah.
that the, the way his brain worked in this scenario,
Yeah.
and where it was the struggle before, where I would, my constant prayer for him growing up was that, he'd have friends and he'd be social and Lord help him in school. And then to see this man, go through this horrible, horrible, thing that he went through and really just become a man in front of us, like
Mhm.
a very social, very, I mean, when he had lunch with Mark Hamill and when he met all these celebrities, like at the premieres that he went to, he handled himself so beautifully. I was like, who
Aw.
is this kid? Like, he just grew up right in front of us.
Yeah.
So it was so beautiful to see that. And it was so amazing to see. And I think about that now, like the boys, my younger sons will ask me like what he looks like in heaven and what that looks like. And having those conversations with them and how important it is to have like an open forum for them to ask those questions
Yeah.
is really hard.
Right.
I don't think people talk a lot about that struggle because at first I think you just don't want to hear the name and you just want to like, because it's just tears all the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's been really healing for us to create a environment where we do talk about him all the time because he's here and he's our family and he's our son and he's their brother and
Yeah.
he was a twin and I mean he is a twin and he's we can't just stop acting like it,
That it wasn't.
like he
Yeah.
wasn't here and it didn't happen.
And
Yeah.
I
So they ask me what he looks like
yeah.
now. Yeah, like, and I'll just say he's a man. He's a
Ye
man, like, and that's easier to imagine because of what he went through, because
Mhm.
he did become such a sweet little
Yeah,
man.
he really did, and I love that he was kind of like I mean, and this is kinda going back to what I was saying before, he was like a literal angel on earth, and now he's your angel in heaven, which is so sweet and such a beautiful
I
thing to imagine
know.
that I don't know, I think it's so hard for us to have perspective on loss, and I have such low perspective on this because I haven't lost a child and I haven't lost a family member who it wasn't for, like, age, you know? So it's hard to relate, and
Mhm.
I don't even wanna begin to try and step into the mindset that you're in, but I can imagine it has to help a little bit to think, like, that's not the end, right? Like, that's why we love and need faith
Oh
is
my
it's a
gosh.
beautiful thing that they get to go and advocate for us on the other side, that they get to watch over us, and it's like having superpower, people helping us get through the rest of our messy lives that we have to try and get through, right?
I I feel like I don't know how people do it without
Yeah.
faith. Like, I could see, like, you watch the movies and the people are in bed and they're like, and I did feel like that for like a few months,
Mhm.
believe me,
Yeah.
where I was like, how do you even get
Right,
dressed?
I'm
And
sure.
I still have those days where it's like, I'm just gonna stay here today and not go
Yeah.
anywhere. I can't do people
Mhm.
today, and that's okay. But without knowing that he is complete and he is whole and he is healed, and even Elijah knew that at the end. And I don't know how God ministers to people when they're dying, and I don't know if I'll ever know that feeling, or if,
Yeah.
but he told me in the end, we were waiting to come home on hospice from the hospital, and he said to me, "Mom, come here. I want to tell you something." And I walked over to his bed, and he said, "God's telling me that it's going to be over and that I'm going to be
Oh,
healed." And I just like immediately started crying. And I thought, because I'm thinking
yeah.
death, and as a mom, I'm like, no, I don't want that to happen. And he looked at me so confused and he's like, you don't get it.
Mm,
And I didn't get it. And I mean, I will never understand until we're
yeah,
together again. Sorry. But he got it. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing, that even on earth, that God could say, hey, I
yeah.
got you. Like, we're going to get through this and it's going to be over soon. And that Elijah, in his limited wisdom on earth, was able to think, "Oh, I'm going to be healed," and it brought him
Mhm.
comfort to get him through to the end. But the healing was,
Yeah,
heaven for him, and which is even more beautiful than anything I could imagine here
yeah,
on earth. I mean, what he's
right.
in now. But for me, I was like, "No, I don't like that
Yeah.
answer. I don't
It
like that,"
doesn't it doesn't
because I don't
right, it
want you to
doesn't play into,
go.
like, my
Yeah,
limited scope of comprehension right now while all I can think about is the here
yeah.
and now and all the years that I have ahead where you're not gonna be there, and even though you know you'll see him again, it's like, "But what am I supposed to do in the meantime?" And I think that's probably where even if you have faith, it's not perfect faith for a while. Faith is like, you have to exercise it, right? Like, you have to practice it every single day.
Oh, it's a practice.
And I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of people and why I wanted you on here is to kind of advocate for that, that you can choose. And I know you probably have dark days where it's just you can't choose faith that day. You just have to
Hmm.
choose the pain and just to get swallowed up in it, I'm sure. I don't know if I'm accurate in that, but I would imagine just even the trials I've had, there's days you just want to be sad.
Oh, yeah. But I think what I'm learning is there has to be room for
Mhm.
both. There's room for mourning and
Yeah.
dancing, and they can
Oh, I love that.
coexist. And that is the ultimate. That is if people hear only one thing from this entire podcast, is that they can coexist, and that when you feel one, you do not have to feel guilty about not
Mm,
feeling the other, and vice versa. So, because sometimes when I laugh, I'll immediately have like a stab of pain, like I shouldn't be laughing,
mm.
or if I'm crying, I should think I should be laughing.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like a catch 22. And what I'm coming to realize is the only way to get through this life, and to without him, and get through that pain, is to realize that there is going to be moments of both, and that it's okay
Mm,
to feel
yeah.
both. And 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 that's actually been our life first, even when from our all are struggling with, kids that were sick and kids with special needs, is he will turn mourning to dancing.
Mhm.
But you could do both.
Yeah.
Like, you could definitely do both, and I think that's what we're learning, especially having other kids. Like, it, the fun can't end,
Right.
like, it can't end, and Elijah wouldn't want it to. Like, we have to keep moving forward.
Right. Okay. So let's kind of quote our friend Rachel Hollis, who we both got to spend some
Yes.
time with in March. And I think actually, didn't I record this? I like got it on video of her talking to you and sharing this with
Yes.
you. And I was so excited for you to tell me later, like, what was she saying? Because you were soaking it in. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what you just said. Like, you can't, she kind of told you, go ahead and just tell everybody what she told you.
Well, she told me two things. She says that it was good that I was there because I have to do something for myself, which I needed to hear in that moment because I was in a very low place
hmm
in Nashville where I was like, I felt guilty even about going.
Which, by the
And her
way,
speaking that into me,
you guys, for if you don't know, we haven't maybe talked about it in a little while. It was the event that I put on here in Nashville back in March. And Claire, you went back and forth. You bought your ticket to come before Elijah even passed away because you were like, I feel like I'm really going to need this at
mm-hmm,
that time. But you a couple times were, I think it was just that one
yeah.
extra courageous step to come. And so I'm so grateful you did come. But that's what we're talking about. You came
Oh, I'm so
to
grateful you did that for me.
to grow your business, to like
I'm
focus on
so
you.
grateful.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so glad you came. So anyway, go on.
So she said, well, there's two things, and there's one thing I don't even know if I told you yet, but she was saying it was good that I was there. But the one thing that stood out to me is that, Rachel, she had lost a sibling
hmm
growing up. And she said to me, when my parents couldn't move forward, when they struggled, when it was always a struggle, I wondered why I wasn't enough for them.
hmm
And that, like, just broke my heart. I went back to my room and, like, just thought, oh, I never want my kids to feel that way. And Elijah, the best big brother in the world, the kid, he just loved his siblings, would never want his brothers and sisters to feel like they were not enough and
Right.
that he was the end of it for me,
Yeah.
you know? And that was beautiful. But you have the recording of her saying what? I don't remember exactly. I wouldn't want to misquote.
I know you told me about
This,
that. I don't know if that's what she was saying at the
yeah.
time, but you, whatever she was saying, you were digging it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love
Oh
to
my gosh.
know.
She was like, just like, yeah, I just remember it being like, I feel like I was floating above myself because it
mm,
was like, she was like, she had known and she knew that I had lost a child, but
hmm
that is it. But it
Yeah.
was like, she spoke right to my heart. That whole thing was like, oh my gosh, it was just right to my heart. Everything I needed to hear
Yeah.
to keep going
Yeah.
because that's the hardest part. I mean, being a mom is hard enough.
Oh
Being a
my
mom is
gosh.
so hard. And then you add on being a mom of kids with special needs and then going my so what I had to realize too is that I wasn't the only one that went through this.
Right.
Um, Even though I was the person that was the sole caretaker and like was with Elijah most of the time in the hospital, my husband relieved me and he was definitely a huge part of it as well. But I mean, I felt like I owned this grief.
hmm
Do you know what I mean?
hmm
Like I was very alone in it. And the moment that she said that, I realized, oh, this is not just me.
hmm
And not only is it not just me, but the way I'm reacting to it is also, it's going to be very powerful in how we move forward
Yeah.
because they're looking to me, you know?
Yes.
And that was a very heavy moment and I think a turnaround for me too. And I think, I talked about it that day with our mutual friend, Kendall, the beautiful Kendall,
Oh, we love Kendall.
um, about, oh my gosh, shout out to her and her beautifulness. I talked to her about like how I had a choice in that moment to let that weigh me down
hmm
or to let that drive me forward.
Ooh.
And I just had to choose to let it drive me forward because if I could have went the other way and been like, that's too much right now. I can't do that. I can't take that on. I can't be responsible for
hmm
that. But instead I used it to propel me forward to help
Yeah.
everyone, not just me, but like all my kids, my husband, his friends. Elijah had beautiful friends that we still spend time with, and like they struggle too. Everyone misses him, and I feel like if we build a community where we can all talk about him and all use what he taught us to move forward, then it's the best thing we could do.
Yeah. And he's never
So,
actually gone, right? Like he's
no,
literally stays with you. And keeping his memory alive kind of keeps him alive in a strong sense and probably invites him to be able to like minister to you guys, in a way
I
like
think so.
I don't think anybody would ever be. It's funny how as a culture, and I've had people on here and I've met friends who've gone through loss, and it's funny how as people who haven't gone through it, we assume don't bring it up because it'll bring up the pain. Don't talk about them because it'll make it sad. But you want to hear his name. You want to know that he's still on the hearts and minds of people and not just a long
Oh
lost
yeah.
memory or like did it ever even happen. So I think that's good. That's good perspective, I think, too, for people listening, is like keep the memory alive by keeping
Oh my
his
gosh.
existence alive and keep what would he do in this situation? And it was so funny when this happened and all of that. So I think it's kind of a
I
beautiful
love
thing that
that. I
you're
think people
sharing the
don't want to
grief.
hurt you. They think if I
Yes.
say this, this is going to hurt you and you seem okay right now. I don't want to like, topple your deck of cards that you've built up today. And I get
Yes.
that. I get where people are coming from because I used to do that too. But they don't realize like I had one of my friend's husbands texted me the other day and just said, "Did Elijah like breakfast foods?" And it was kind of a
Mm.
random question, but I was like, I love this question because yes. And then I went into this huge like 3 paragraph text about, well, when he went to IHOP, he would get this. And then like, but just that 3 paragraphs of talking about what Elijah enjoyed for breakfast, and it led into one of his last texts to me was about pancakes. And I was like, what a
Oh.
beautiful thing to be able to share with this person who actually just like had gone out to breakfast and thought of Elijah and thought, think I remember Elijah liking pancakes, and texted me just to ask that simple question, and how much joy it brought me to just talk about how much he loved pancakes and French toast. Like
Oh.
it's the little
Yeah.
things, but like, so if you have someone that's lost a child or a parent or someone close to them, and I actually, and I think I shared about this before about losing my best friend's daughter 3 years prior.
Mhm.
So, um, 3 years before we lost Elijah, my who I consider my niece, my best friend's daughter, Sonia, passed away in a tragic accident. So, um, horribly, and she was the same age Elijah was when he passed. So, a lot of
Mm.
people, we get a lot of questions like, "Do you think it's weird that both you and your best friend, have lost a child?" And I always think that's an odd question. We get a lot of odd questions, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Grief is funny that way. Grief is really
Uh-huh.
funny what people say to you. It's like, "Are you thinking before you say that?" And maybe we should get into
Probably
that.
not.
Um, I've had some very, we could put
Oh,
like a
man.
little like side note, maybe like a blooper reel of things people have said to me, but they're all trying. But
I've seen images, graphics, like, I feel like you just need a printable to keep, like, here's what not to say to
right,
your friend who just went through loss,
right.
and people
Or
mean
just
well, and
like,
you
I
used to
have
be
to
one of
remind
them,
myself. Oh, totally.
right?
Totally.
Yes.
And that's what I have to remind myself. Like, oh, I've said the weirdest things. I've walked away from so many conversations where I'm like, I wish I could erase that. Like, where's the Men in Black pen, to like flash in front of them? Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, so people always ask us, like, do you think it's weird? And I never know how to respond to it. Like, it is, I guess it's weird, but then the whole point of me saying that is that I don't think it's weird. I think that God, puts people in our lives at perfect times. And, when I was a sophomore in high school and I met my best friend Tiffany, he knew that this all would happen, like, and I think it's beautiful in a way that I can look to her and see how she
Yeah.
walked through her grief and is still walking through her grief. And we go every Saturday to see our children together and put flowers up for them,
Oh,
and they're next to each other, and it's beautiful. And
that is
I don't think
beautiful.
it's weird. I think it's God's way of like giving me someone to walk through this with that can be an example to me too. So that's
That's a beautiful thing. I think that is very, very it sounds weird to say meant to be, but it's just kind of one of those, like, beautiful little tender mercies of life, of, like,
yeah.
it does maybe it sounds weird in people asking that because 'cause you're like, "What are you trying to say? Like, we have some kinda curse on us? Like, if you're friends with us, you'll lose
Yeah,
a child at that
yeah.
age?"
Yeah.
It's
I do feel like people, it's like it's such a weird question, like, "Are you scared?" Like, what is, but I get what they're saying. Like, it is
Yes.
such an odd thing to have in common and to be friends for so long and to have like
Yeah.
something. And I think what we do in life too is that, if I'm being honest with myself, and I've told her this, is like when that happened to Sonia, I thought, well, then nothing could happen, nothing will happen to
Mm.
us because it would, you know what I mean? Like you feel this odd safety,
Yes.
like almost like when a plane crashes right before you get on a plane, you're like, that's horrible, but at least like my odds are better.
Yes.
Like it's not going to happen right now. So in a weird way, without knowing it, I felt like a kind of like a hedge of safety. And so when Elijah was diagnosed, I think I still kind of like held on to that. Well, like, we're not gonna lose another child in our family. There's no way
Mhm.
that's gonna happen. Like, God would never allow that. That's unfair. And I went through like a denial phase because of what had happened previously.
Yeah.
But the truth is that they are tender mercies, and God doesn't make mistakes, and He doesn't waste anything. And when one day we see big picture, which we can't now, it all makes sense.
Yeah,
And
completely.
it will be beautiful and we won't wonder and we won't care even. We'll just go, oh, I know what you're doing now.
Yeah,
But
and thanks for that.
the tender mercies are what gets you through. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like these things like that, like I think that's what you have to focus on in this life, especially after losing someone or going, even if you're going through something hard, like something
Mhm.
challenging in life, it's those little tiny things that seem little in the moment, but if you really focus on them, they're huge and they're
Yeah,
beautiful and they matter. You
right.
know, like just a butterfly flying past. Like the I know a lot of people after they experience loss, butterflies mean something to them, and I never understood that. Like, why does every grief card have a butterfly on it? Like,
Mhm.
but there is something that happens, something that switches in you when you lose someone, that there's this symbolism that you never knew that mattered to you. But every time we see a butterfly, every time I walk out of my garage, there is a monarch butterfly flying across, and it never fails. Yesterday, Gus opened the garage to let me out, and a butterfly flew across. I'm always like,
Aw,
"What is that?
yeah,
What is it?" It's so beautiful, but you have to grasp those moments because even if it is just a butterfly, and I'm putting symbolism on it that maybe doesn't belong there, it's still a beautiful thing.
right.
And God's earth is so beautiful and nuanced, and so many things that we haven't experienced that I know that Elijah wants me to do because he loved this life, this part of life so much. And what he's experiencing now is nothing in comparison, but
Mhm.
he would want me to experience all these little things and to enjoy them and to love them and to laugh at them
Yeah.
and be present,
I
you
love that.
know?
I think that is such a beautiful thing to say and acknowledge. And I think it's so important for us listening who maybe think like, yeah, that happened to her. That's sad. That'll probably never happen to me. And we pray that it won't. But it's such good perspective to see like life is so fleeting. Everything is such a beautiful experience. Nothing should be taken for granted. And it's kind of a cool thing because when you go through loss or a trial, it kind of forces you to step into that. You can choose to step into anger and resentment and all of that, or you can choose to step into gratitude. And I think that's the point of suffering, is to take us into
Hmm.
gratitude, into humility, so that we're really looking up instead of looking, you know, down. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but like, don't keep your head down trying to just get through life. Keep it up and
Yeah,
look at
you're
the
gonna
beauty of
miss so
life.
much.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I want to kind of go
You'll miss
to
so
a
much.
text that you sent me. I think it was just yesterday, and I asked you how you were, which I know is such a hard question. It's such like a blanket question. And I hope you know anytime I ask you that, I really do want to hear like, well, today actually kind of
Oh, I
sucks.
know.
And because, I don't want to
That's why I
every,
tell you the truth.
yes. And I'm grateful that you tell me the truth. But what you said was, can I just read your text? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
But you said, I have good days and bad days. Every day I have sad moments, and that's okay. I'm trying not to define my days by how I feel, but how did I spend my time? Am I being wasteful? Am I engaged with what my kids are doing? Have I told them I love them? Have I made them smile? Have I given them a space to express their grief? Oh, it's complicated. And I loved that. And I feel like you've kind of been expressing a lot of those things throughout the whole call, but I really wanted to just give that beautiful summary because that's amazing perspective on, instead of like focusing on your feelings, which are going to be all over the place, focusing on your intention
Yeah.
and how you're spending your time. That's so cool.
I I I'm trying to find a way to mark the time because the time is so important, like the
Hmm.
time that passes without him. I think a lot of people struggle with that with grief, like the time passes and people think that you should be getting better, right?
Yeah.
Like and talking about him helps and giving my kids that space, but passing the time by marking how you feel at any given moment is just not how I want to do it. Do you
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's too like I said in that text, it's just too many things all at once. Like
Hmm.
because it could change minute to minute and I can't mark my day as successful or as unsuccessful by how I felt
Yeah.
because there's just no way to gauge that. So recently I don't want to, I guess I could call it a vision, but I imagined something. I have been following this lady and I don't know her, so this isn't like a advertisement for her business, but it's this lady and she makes bracelets and they're gold bracelets and they're called Yearly Company. I don't know if you've seen these.
Mm-mm.
And they are beautiful, just very simple gold bracelets. And I love bracelets. It's probably one of the only jewelries I wear. And I found her and she uses them to mark anniversaries. Like someone will get married and they'll order one gold bracelet for every year they've been married, and it's what her grandfather did for her grandmother, and it's
That's
something they've always done in
awesome.
their family. So like her grandmother has like gold bracelets like on both arms, like just covering, and it's beautiful. Like it's just I loved it, and I love following her. But so I ordered one to be delivered to me on the anniversary of Elijah's death because I want to mark that time that I'm not with him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's the important. Like I want to acknowledge the time that I haven't seen him for because that's what's important to me.
Yeah.
Um, and when I paid for it and I knew it was coming and it will be here on September 2nd, I had this vision of both of my arms just covered in gold bracelets, and I'm holding them up and I could see him coming towards me and the bracelets just melt away.
Oh.
And it's like when I get to heaven, like the time that I spent without him will not matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to mark it here and I need for it to matter here. But when we're together, it just won't anymore.
Yeah.
And that brings me comfort. I don't know if that makes
It
sense, but
does. Yeah.
just that it won't matter. And so I will have all these gold bracelets and maybe I'll have a few. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Hopefully, I'll see him soon. I don't know what the Lord's plans are, but maybe I'll have just dozens and dozens on each arm, but
Yeah.
they'll melt away and they won't matter. And it's just such a beautiful vision
I love that.
of what I think people with grief have to do. Like they have a
Mm-hmm.
that's why you see so many people getting tattoos
Yeah.
and so many people having like, you know, like I get it. Like now I get it.
Yeah.
And I had asked Elijah, this is just kind of a funny story because I wore a bracelet that he had worn before they amputated his arm. He was wearing a like a lava bead bracelet for essential oils on his right arm.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it off that day and when they took his arm and I put it on my arm and I wore it ever since. And it broke right before he passed. And I asked him, and I said, "Would you, one day I just like to get this tattooed on me? It's just a very simple lava bead bracelet, just so I have it on me tattooed." And he's like, "No, you can never get a tattoo." He just would not allow it.
That's so
He was
funny.
very adamant. I don't know why. I don't know if he's like if there's like some like legalism there I didn't know about or what. Like he just does not want me to have a tattoo. So I just now because he like I don't think he realized like the power of like your kind of like not your last words, but like in those moments where, you know, it was a few days before he passed, I was like, well, I will never get a tattoo. That is just said and done
I will
now.
get gold bracelets
So I
instead.
exactly. So that's kind of where because I needed a way because I think that's a very normal reaction. I
Mm-hmm.
know so many people that have gotten tattoos or like I wear an E around my neck that my beautiful friend Tiffany got me, a necklace with just the letter E, and I wear it every day. I haven't taken it off. I got it the day of his memorial, and so that I love. But I get like you're just searching for some way to like to say to the world, I'm still missing him,
Mm-hmm.
and I need it to matter to you without wearing a T-shirt that says
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
know, like I a way to start a conversation that's organic without me saying, "Can we please talk about my son
Right.
today?" You know, and I think that's what these jewelry pieces are and what the tattoos are about and why people do that. And it's healing and I get it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if you need to do that, do it. Like I say, do whatever you need to do to get you through. Even though Elijah wouldn't want you to get a tattoo, if you need one, go
Yeah.
ahead. You know, like but I just feel like it's been an interesting road watching how people cope and like the different mechanisms and what people need and what they don't need. And I'm like, oh, I'm learning so
Yeah.
much. Like, and I think if you have someone that has lost someone, if you just watch them, you don't even need to ask questions. Just by watching them, you learn a
Yeah.
lot by how people go through life, even with what they post or what they share on their stories. Like, oh, I see what they're doing here. I see how they're
Mm-hmm.
struggling. It's very easy to tell, you know. And I think that a lot of people ask me, like, how do you
Yeah.
do it? Like, how do you do it? You know? And I always think that's a funny question too, because I just don't really think we have a choice at this point. Like,
Right.
you just
One day at a
have
time,
to
just like
do
you
it.
do.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
just have to do it. And
Yep.
that's just the way we got through all of it. Like, how do you do it? You're so strong. Oh my gosh, you're so strong. And everyone would do it. You know, like they're
Mm-hmm.
just you have to do it. You just have to move through. And really the choice is how what you're gonna grasp onto as you move through. Is it the
Mm-hmm.
good memories? Is it the bad memories? Is it both? And I think that's the real answer is that it's all of it. It's the mourning and the
Yeah.
dancing, it's the good and the bad. It's just you gotta keep moving.
Yeah. So I know this is all a process and it's all a movement, and I love you comparing it to a dance. I'm curious, and I know you maybe don't even have this all figured out, and I'd be blown away if you did have it all figured out, but what is kind of like next for you? Because you really had to invest so much mental and emotional and spiritual energy into kind of keeping Elijah alive, while he was battling
Hmm.
cancer. And now you've gone through almost a year of just kind of learning how to cope with grief. What has this taught you about like what you really want to do with the rest of your life and how you want to maximize on these experiences and how you want to help people? Like, I know this is kind of out of left field. I didn't prepare that I was going to ask you this, but where is your heart like
Oh,
kind
I
of
love
calling you
that.
now?
So before I was all this happened, I was operations manager for like a loan company. I've always worked in business. I've done MLMs and I've kind of done it all as far as like business and being entrepreneurial. And now I'm a caregiver, a full-time caregiver for my 19-year-old daughter Lily, who has moderate autism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at home with the kids. I'm writing blog pieces that I have not posted yet. I need an outlet and I know I need an outlet, but I'm just like so I need to get the confidence to share with the world like and this
Yeah.
is kind of a first step for me, but I need to do something that matters.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is yet. And I have so many things floating around in my head, but I know that I just want to make Elijah proud and I want him to look down and see that what I'm doing, I'm loving it and
Mm-hmm.
that I'm enjoying it and that it brings not only me joy but other people joy and it blesses them. So right now to get through, like as a family, we're volunteering time for like cancer organizations for kids
Mm-hmm.
and doing things because the kids really want to do that and that's something that they led on. Like there was a cancer organization that really helped us that we want to volunteer time and like do work for them and the kids love doing that.
Yeah.
So I see my life going in a way that would be like more philanthropy
Mm-hmm.
possibly if I could do that. But
If you
also
could do that, you will
possibly
absolutely, if that's what you want to do. Do you know who you're talking to right
I
now?
do want to
This
do
isn't
that.
a space
I
where you're
know I'm
like,
talking to the right person.
Like if I feel like it.
like, no. Okay, so tell me what you're gonna do.
I know. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna tell you this because I know you're gonna hold me to it. I'm gonna start a podcast.
Oh my gosh.
I want
Yes.
to do that. It has been on my heart forever. And even in those moments where like you're pouring into me and Rachel Hollis is pouring into me and Nicole Walters is pouring into me in that weekend, I was thinking like I want to do that. Like I want to be that person that has those words for people. And I feel like I do. Like they're in
Yeah.
my heart, they're in my mind, they're in my soul, and I want a place to be able to give them to people, to help people and
Yeah.
encourage people. So I don't know what it looks like, but I
And that's
am
not even the
praying about it
most
and I hope it happens.
Yeah, and that's not the most important part. I will help you figure out the details. That's like, that's what we're going to do together. That's my genius zone. That's my ability
Yes.
of helping. I may not have your experiences, but I'm going to help you share your experiences to make a bigger impact with the world. But I was thinking about this as you said this, and it might sound like such a weird thing to say, but this is the exact blessings that come out of trials. This is why, people say, why God?
Oh,
Like,
it
why
is.
did you take my son? And it's like, well, why not? People have to die. These things have, this is the circle of life. And this had
Hmm.
to happen because this is Elijah's path. And this was also what was going to set in motion a totally different life path for you that you would have never stepped onto had you not
Oh,
experienced
never.
so it's such a beautiful thing to see the ripple effect. And I, for one, can't wait to see where your life takes you and where these
Oh,
things compel you to go and who they're going to help you to serve.
I hope so. And there's so many people out there with special needs kids or people that have experienced loss that like my heart is for you. Like when I come across things on Facebook, like my heart is just with those people and I know that God wants to use it in a beautiful and powerful way and I'm just like I'm open
Yeah,
to that is what I'm saying in these
I
moments.
love it. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so impressed by you and blown away by you and your spirit and your optimism. And I know this has been more of like a kind of a serious conversation. We need to have you back on where we can just laugh the whole time because you guys,
Yeah.
Claire and I, we are like the same human. We went to Disneyland together. When was that? Was that like August, September. What month was that? I don't even remember. January?
All I know is like I don't think we'd ever met in person before then, really. I mean, not like
One
for a long
time.
period of time. And we spent the whole day together like we were
Like
just
we'd been born
besties
twins.
forever.
Oh my god.
I think we had
We
matching
did.
shirts.
We bought matching shirts. We got matching bracelets. We completed each other's sentences. We did the same. Like I remember riding a
Totally
ride and we were doing the
normal.
same like hand gestures and stuff, and we were looking at each other like,
Yes,
"What's happening? Are you my other half?"
I know. And I just like, I need to say, and I know that you might edit this out because you're not self serving at all, but you are amazing. And I just need, if you leave this in, everyone should know that from not knowing you to knowing you took like a solid 2 minutes. And from from not mattering to you as a person you didn't know to becoming someone important to you took even less time. You are so self like aware of and so empathetic, and that's a
Mm,
gift. Like I want you to know that. Like and that's something I'm learning in in life is that not everyone gets empathy for
yeah.
free. You know, like not a lot of people have that built in for free and you do and it's a gift and it's beautiful. And I want you to know that throughout this entire journey, and I don't think it's an accident that we met right before, Elijah was diagnosed either. And I think that's another beautiful, tender mercy too, is just the encouraging emails and the things that you've done for me and my family just have been so amazing. And so I love you so much. And I'm so grateful for our
Oh,
friendship. And
I love you.
I know that you're going to hold me to all these things that I say I'm going to do. And I appreciate that so
I
much.
mean, I can't help myself.
And I'm so happy that you keep me accountable. I love that
The
about you.
sky can't stop being
So
blue,
I'm so
right? Like I have
grateful.
to. It's just I have
Exactly.
to. I love you too much to not make
It's,
sure that you
I
make good on all of
know.
your amazing talents and skills. And thank you for all of those kind words. I don't edit this, so I guess it'll just be at the mercy of whoever's editing.
It's in there. Yes. I wish I would have known that in the
Oh
beginning.
gosh. You're so sweet though. I really appreciate that. It's a beautiful thing. Connection is real, and that's I'm going to be advocating a ton for connection, and that's just my message now is like it is we need to stop looking at things as being an accident. Nothing is a coincidence. And like you said, we met at just the right time, and you've served me in ways that you don't even know. Like there's connection is happening all around us, and you just have to choose to embrace it, and you have to realize like I would never
Yes.
know I was an empathetic person, and you would never know that you were a philanthropist if you weren't paying attention to the details and paying attention to the relationships that are helping you, calling you to your purpose of who you are and who God sees you to be. And so, oh man, I could go on and on about that, but I'm just so grateful for that power that connected us. And I'm grateful for your friendship. And I think you are a
Yes.
rock star,
Oh,
such a rock star.
love you
I
so
love you so much.
much.
You guys,
Oh, right back at
give
you.
us 10 more minutes to tell each other how much we love each other, and then we'll close this out.
We're going to need more
I
than
know.
10.
We need forever.
We're going to need more than
Oh
10.
my gosh. Well, you are fabulous.
Can I just say, I just want to say one more thing before,
Go
because
ahead.
I have always wanted a space to say this, and this it might be self-serving, but if I could just say a blanket thank you to whoever is listening to this that reached out to my family during the time where we were helping Elijah and where we needed assistance with prayer or food or even monetary. We had a GoFundMe going at one time. So many people reached out to us, so many people who I don't even know, so many people I hadn't seen in years. And that's if you take away anything from this, the beauty of community and the beauty of the way people come together for
Mm,
you when you are suffering, that changed me
yeah.
too. And I think that if you're an outsider looking in on this, those little things, $5 or just saying I'm praying for you or a pat on the back or just a hug when I need it the most, these are the things that get us through. And if you feel led to do any of those things at any given time for anybody, just know that they matter.
Yeah.
And so thank you to anybody and everybody who helped us in this journey and is still helping us. We are so grateful. And Elijah was so grateful.
Oh, I love that. I'm glad that you use the space to say that. I'm sure everybody who you love will listen and be able to hear that. And yeah, just what better place to share that from the heart. That's why I love podcasting. That's why I'm so excited you're going to do a podcast because there's such
I
authenticity
can't
that
wait.
can come through in your voice versus just like a text and a Facebook post. So
I agree. I agree.
yeah. Okay. Well,
I love it.
I've asked you this before because you're a repeat guest, but I'm going to ask you again because I know the answer may have shifted. What makes you a marvelous mom?
I don't know. I don't even remember what I said last time, but my first instinct is that I keep going.
Mhm.
And that's marvelous. And
Yeah.
I think that too many people try too hard to come up with something that makes them marvelous. Like it's so nuanced. I'm going to say that I'm marvelous because I never give up, and Elijah never gave up, and I'm just following in his footsteps.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love you so much. You guys, I'm going to link to all things Claire. She's going to get her blog up. We're going to link to her social media platforms so you can go
Yay.
send her some love. Screenshot this episode, tag us on Instagram, let us know you're listening. Let us know something you maybe learned about grief or share your story with us. We would love to support you in your time of need and send our prayers and love to you. So thank you again, Claire, for being a guest. I love talking to you. I love sharing this. You have an amazing perspective, and I just can't say enough good things. So just thank you.
Love you so much. Love you so
Love you
much.
too. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to our Love Fest. We will see you on the next episode. Have a marvelous day. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to take action right now, you're feeling inspired and you're feeling enlightened, and you really want to own this role as a marvelous mom, go to the website, marvelousmomsclub.com/me, and create your own personal Marvelous Moms Manifesto. That is a tongue twister. marvelousmomsclub.com/me. You go fill in some great information, and in the end, you'll have a beautiful manifesto to display where only you can see or the whole family can see, where you can really, really own your role as a marvelous mom and step inside those goals and those ambitions and dreams that you have to become an even more marvelous mom to your beautiful family. So again, marvelousmomsclub.com/me. We will see you over there.